Hi there, welcome back to the Fuzion Bakery YouTube channel. One of Edmonton's top new bakeries that's coming on the scene here, North Edmonton. I'm here with Tahner Freely. He's the brain behind the Fuzion Bakery. I'm Trevor with Inspired Method, and today we're going to be talking about 10 essential baking techniques you need to know. So if you want to bake good things, you want to make delicious treats, I know everybody who's tried making a dessert, bringing it to a party, and it's turned out poorly. Not well at all. I might have made one or two of those, and I just, this one's good for home. We'll just do it. Yeah. I'll say that the children made this one. Anyway, so we always start off our videos with a quote. This one's from one of my personal favorites, great man, Zig Ziglar. Gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for. Great words to live by. I love Zig Ziglar. If you haven't read any Zig Ziglar books or heard any of his talks, you would be benefited from any of those things. So read his books, look up his old videos. Zig Ziglar, one of my personal favorites. So next, quick fact for you guys. Adolf Levitt, a Russian-born immigrant, invented the first automated donut machine in 1920. Oh, that's great.
I'd love to see that.
Oh, man. He called it the wonderful, almost human automatic donut machine. Almost human automatic donut machine. So AI was big back in the 1920s. Yeah. And the first thing we used it for was what? Making donuts. All right, so we got to make the donuts, Tahner. Yes, introduce us to the topic, and then we'll get rolling with some questions.
Yeah, so just like tools, whether you're using a spatula or some special tool you have for the job, techniques also help a lot. You mix something up and you did the wrong technique and you wasted the whole thing. So techniques are just as important as tools. So we're gonna go through some today, and see if we can reduce maybe a headache or an embarrassment for you.
That's right. We're going to learn some techniques today that are going to help us make better things. So number one, I guess the first one here is reading the recipe. So
it seems basic, right? Like it seems like, okay, well, whatever, I'm just going to get a recipe and I'll follow it. It's got step by step, right? 1, 2, 3. How can I go wrong? But if you don't read through it, you can get a list of ingredients and say there's a cup of sugar. Yeah. So the first thing says add the sugar with the flour, but you didn't read below that you got to cut the sugar in half. So half of it's supposed to go with the flour and half with the eggs. If you miss that, sorry, but yours is it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's a do-over.
Yeah, a do-over. So
you know what? I have a story. It just came to mind. I was in junior high taking a home ec class, and we were making banana bread. Okay, making banana bread, and in the ingredients, the way the list was this, and I was reading through the list, and there was an ingredient. It was a wet ingredient. I think it was maybe either buttermilk or something, or some type of thing. After I had my wet ingredients here, my dry ingredients here, and I'm looking through the recipe, for some reason I read the instructions wrong, and it said add this ingredient, I think it was buttermilk or something, to the dough. And I put it in the flour by itself, and I started mixing it up. I'm like, I don't understand why they want me to do this. And then I put in the rest of it, and you know what? That thing took like an hour and a half to bake, and it was awful. It did not work out well at all. And after that was like, okay, lesson learned. So the wet stuff all goes into the thing, and I read it wrong, and it turned out horribly. So I've lived it.
There you go. Personal experience.
Yes. And ever since then, I follow directions very well. Yeah. But like some of these ones, you go online and you look at the recipe on All Recipes, and they telling like a long drawn out story. Oh, it was the summer of 1996 when my mother-in-law went out. It was like, oh my God, I don't care. Just show me the recipe, give me the instructions, and let's move on. I don't know about you, but I get irritated at that. But I know they do it for SEO and trying to get ad dollars and so forth. But I know that stuff. Next one, use fresh ingredients. Tell us why that's important.
So when you think fresh, I don't know, fresh milk or something, but a lot of it is the things like yeast, baking powder, baking soda. You know, if you don't bake a lot, you buy a little container and you use, you know, a teaspoon, so it lasts a long time, but it only usually lasts about 6 months. So if you have baking powder or baking soda and it's been on the shelf for, you know, almost a year, and you get a recipe, I got to add some, you take a teaspoon, you find out after you bake it that it didn't rise. It's because the baking soda was bad. And this can also happen too when you bake something the same recipe. So you baked it first and you used fresh ingredient, yeast or whatever, and it came out great. And then 6 months later, you tried it again with the same pack of yeast and it didn't turn out. And you're thinking, what happened? I mean, this is the same recipe. Yeah. So just the fresh ingredients, it's important.
All right. So number 3, trust the baking indicators. Yeah. What does that mean?
So the indicators are, you know, when something is done. So, you know, when you're baking and you think, okay, I put it in, it says 45 minutes at 350, right on, I'll go and do something, the timer comes off, I'll come back, it'll be done.
But it's burnt.
Yeah, that's not always the case. So there's a lot of things in baking. Baking is a science. And, you know, even altitude, you know, the altitude here in Edmonton is around 2,200 feet above sea level. If you go down to sea level and you bake that same recipe in that oven, the time will not be the same. So just stuff like that. So what they're saying is don't trust the 45 minutes. It's best to come back at 35 minutes, test it. And if it's done, it's done. You don't need 45 minutes. Yeah. So just make sure you don't just read the recipe 30 minutes and walk away, because it could be done sooner, it could be done later. So trust the indicators. Does your toothpick come out wet? Well, it's not done, even if it's, you got to go another 5 minutes. So just trust the indicators.
Yeah, and banana bread is famous for that.
Yeah.
Banana bread is like, is it done? Put the thing in it. Oh no, it's not done yet. Even 2 minutes later, it's completely done, and the outside's getting black. Like,
yeah.
Banana bread. Maybe I'm just a horrible baker. All right, number 4, overmixing. Overmixing can be a problem.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes they'll tell you to fold something in when you're using egg yolks or something. Yeah. But bread, anything, a flour, gluten in the flour becomes more stiff as you mix it more. So it can be tricky. So just make sure you don't overmix it. You of course you want to make sure everything's mixed up. But when you're in a commercial kitchen, what you'll find is they have different mixers for bread specifically. One is a spiral mixer. A spiral mixer is used for bread because it moves slowly and it's gentle. And so if you use a planetary mixer, which is faster and more aggressive, you'll heat that dough up. It'll cause the reaction quicker. It will not come out the same. So yeah, you got to be careful when you're working with flour. Don't overmix it if you're depending on what you're making.
Okay, good to know. So hopefully you guys are learning something from this video. Okay, the next one. Avoid substitution if you can. Avoid substitution. So what does that mean for us?
Yeah, so when you're cooking just a dinner, say, it's spontaneity, and substitution it's welcome because it's creativity. You can substitute beef for pork or chicken, or use cilantro with a different herb. Just be creative. You can create something new and it'll taste great. With baking, not the case. Not the case. You got to stick with the recipe because it's a science. Again, I said that before. When it says fresh berries, use fresh berries. If you think, oh, I'm going to substitute frozen berries for fresh, sorry, but you're probably going to come out with something that's a little more wet. Yeah. With the berries, the water that's frozen and it comes unthawed. So when it says something, you got to follow it, because if you don't, there's a very high chance it's not going to work out. These recipes were tried different ways, and they're there for a reason.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this. You probably don't, but I make a pretty wicked, awesome buttermilk pancake. It's so good. I stole a recipe from Bobby Flay. You know what? Because I'm not a chef or a cook, so I look to the best to find how to make stuff. Make this amazing buttermilk pancake recipe. It's delicious and light and fluffy. I mean, the things are like this thick. They're amazing. Wow. But sometimes, like you go to the store and you can't find anything but a full liter of buttermilk. I'm not going to drink a glass of buttermilk. So you use, the cup or so, whatever it takes for the recipe. And that's good. So one time we wanted to make this without buttermilk and use just regular milk, and because there's ways out there you can turn milk into buttermilk substitute, and it's not the same. It doesn't have the right flavor, doesn't come out nice and rich and whatnot. So just don't. Just get the buttermilk. Just do it, okay? And lemon zest. Oh my God, the best.
Wow,
the best. Anyways, bake in the center of the oven unless otherwise instructed.
Yeah, and this one, there's two parts to it. So generally the oven, the center of it is the most even heat. So even in commercial kitchens, some of them, the most kind of basic convection oven, what you'll find is you'll have to rotate the pans halfway through because the heat's not even and you want to cook things evenly. So if you bake in the center, generally that's the most even heat. And then the big mistake is when you combine stuff. So you put, oh, well, I'm going to bake a cake, but I want to make another thing and it's at the same temperature. So I'll just throw them both in. So you got one on the top and one on the bottom. That's going to make things, well, it's going to be definitely your time is off. You can't follow your time anymore. And you might have to turn the pan to get it even. So the idea is to cook in the most even heat area and in your oven, which if you don't have especially if you don't have a convection oven, if you just have a basic oven, try to get it right in the center. That's probably going to be the most even and turn out with the best result.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's going to be a good tip. I've done that before. You know, you're trying to, if you're making especially like a Thanksgiving dinner or a big thing and you're putting, multiple things in the ovens and nothing really like comes together the way it should because they're all trying to fight for the same heat, the same air, and things don't get heated right. So yeah, if you can cook one thing at a time and use the center of the oven, it's a good choice.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next one here is calibrate your oven by setting it to 350 and placing a thermometer inside.
So yeah, this is, some of us may be a little bit perfectionist. You might think, oh my gosh, that's going a little bit too far. But really, like we talked about altitude and stuff, things are different, things wear out, things get older. So your oven, it's just a basic, just get a basic thermometer, stick the oven on 350, put it in there and check. Maybe it's only at 340. So, when you're gonna bake something, put it at 360, you're getting the true 350 heat. Or it's actually 360, you gotta turn it down to 340. And that's kind of why sometimes your stuff's coming out way ahead of time or it's coming out burnt. Yeah, it's easy. It's an easy one to do. It maybe sounds technical, but it'll help. It'll really help.
All right, so that is a big tip. I don't think anybody really checks the temperature of their oven, and they just trust the dial on top. I know my oven right now is broken, and it lies to me. It tells me it's 420 degrees when really it's like 230. It's awful. It's broken.
That's a problem.
It lies. So I really can't use the oven right now. It's awful. Anyways, so yeah, check the thermometer with a thermometer. Now, next, avoid doubling or halving a recipe. I do this all the time. I double recipes all the time.
Yeah.
I've got a big family, lots of people.
There's sometimes you can get away with it, but really where you're gonna there's some things that don't double or half. Baking soda, again, baking powder, yeast, those types of things, they don't just scale 1 to 1. So you want to make a double batch with a yeast, it's probably not going to work out, especially if you just made that recipe, you made it before, it's great, you want to triple it. If you triple that yeast, you're most likely going to have not the same product. So when they say, you can, if they tell you can double it, then you're good to go. But if they don't tell you that and you try, just be warned, it might not turn out as good as it normally does.
May not work out. Just be warned.
Just be warned.
All right, so next tip that I didn't think of, but I think it's a good idea, using a light colored pan.
Again, maybe you're getting a little technical here, but yeah, a dark colored pan absorbs more heat. So when that happens, the bottom, say cookies or muffins or whatever, they'll come out dark, maybe even burnt, just because the pan that got hotter, the pan sucked in the heat. So yeah, it's a maybe technical one. If you're shopping for new stuff, then just stay with the light colored pan and you're good to go. Light colored, shiny. Yeah, light colored and shiny. Light colored and shiny. Okay, so the last one here says, if a recipe says allow to cool, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for allowing things to cool.
Yeah.
Why?
And of course, I'm sure we're all guilty of it, especially you pull something out of the oven, it's hot and warm, you just, I just want a piece, you know, of the bread or whatever. If it says allow to cool and you try to flip that thing over and get it out of the pan, it's probably not all coming out of the pan in one piece.
Yeah.
So
two-thirds.
Two-thirds, yeah, you're missing the bottom. So yeah, it's there for a reason. Again, they need to cool and set and stick together and come off the pan. So if they tell you, I would listen. If not, be warned.
Yeah, be warned. Be prepared to stick it together with, you know, some icing or something.
Yeah.
Something to turn out well. Okay, well that's it for this video. Thank you so much, Tahner. That was awesome. We've hopefully learned a lot about baking, some tips and tricks that will help make us better bakers. And if you guys like this video and you're excited about Fuzion Bakery coming to North Edmonton and opening soon, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when a new video is out, and we will see you guys on the next video.
See ya.